Let's jump into some audience questions because we've had quite a few come through, and just for our audience that might be joining us and didn't catch the intro, if you want to post a question, then you're welcome to do so just by putting it into the comments section on the YouTube channel. Alternatively, if you want to post that via the Slido platform, then you're welcome to do so as well. And the instructions for that are on the screen. All right, let's jump into some of these questions. I asked, I think this is the question that comes up just about every forum, what keeps you awake at night? And Marty, we've had your response to that question. Jackie, are you sleeping well at the moment, or what's keeping you awake in the wee small hours at the moment?
Yeah, no, I'm generally actually quite invigorated. My brain is thinking all the time. I feel like I'm in a two-speed economy. I feel like my work is really demanding and requiring a lot of me, whereas my personal life is kind of like, feels like I've gone back to my childhood. It's so quiet. But anyway, so I wouldn't say there's anything particularly keeping me awake at night, but I do worry about how we're going to come out of this and what the future holds, because it's really that level of uncertainty. How do you lead your organisation when you're just not sure what the future's going to be? And it's one of the few times in my career I don't have a good sense of what's the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next 12 to 18 months.
Another popular question we seem to get each forum too is, how are you managing yourselves? The self-care issue. What are you doing to keep yourself mentally healthy and physically on top of your increased workloads? Marty, is somebody who's come from a police background, I guess you're fairly used to that environment, staying fit and dealing with pressure.
Yeah, although in saying that, I don't know that our debrief processes 20 year ago were the healthiest. So I know a lot's changed since. So, and it's no secret that the glass collection has tripled around the city. So there's an indication there that obviously people are going home and having a probably another drink or extra than they normally would. But look, I think exercise is important, and exercise and switch off time, as difficult as it may be, you've got to put the devices in the top drawer soon after you get home, otherwise it's just too much of a distraction. And I guess my other avenue, and it's probably not a very healthy one, is if I can't sleep, I get up and watch CNN and Fox, and then I look for Al Jazeera for a bit of balance, but I don't recommend that.
Jackie, what are you doing in the self-care department?
Well, I'm a bit of a yoga devotee, and I like to meditate as well. So I've been doing more yin, which is the kind of softer, longer poses, and I've forced my husband to do it as well. So we've been having a bit of a laugh with it while we've been kind of stuck in the house together, and that's been a bit of fun.
And just following on, Jackie, a question for you. The question is, what have you learned, I guess, during the lockdown about connecting with others, and what are your top tips for staying connected when you're dealing with a remote team?
Yeah, look, actually, while you're talking being connected, one of the best supports I've had during this is my fellow chief executives in the inner Melbourne area. So we have been connecting, particularly early on, hour by hour, day by day, and then we've had a weekly meeting, and that on a Friday afternoon for me has been a really good opportunity to have a catch up on what my colleagues are doing. And we've kind of gone in lockstep with some of the actions that we've taken on different things. So that gives you that sense of bouncing off other peers, getting a sense of weighing up your situation and then making better decisions. So that has been a really valuable thing for me in terms of keeping up with stuff. But in regards to my own team, we've just been including, for example, we've done some professional development during this, and we actually have a change consultant that comes in and does breakfast series with us. We kept doing that with Zoom while we've been going through this process. It's been fantastic because it's given us an opportunity to almost objectively analyse change in this environment. How do we reimagine what the future is going to be like, and really connect as a group while trying to kind of step away from some of the day-to-day crisis stuff.
And you've actually taken on the additional challenge of onboarding a couple of senior executives during the crisis.
Yeah, to the point where two senior executives who'd been working together for a couple of weeks had never met face to face, and then one said, "I thought you were taller than you are." Anyway, it was quite funny. But yes, no, we brought 2 of them on, and they actually came on early, and they did an outstanding job. We just kind of basically threw them right in the deep end. They haven't even had a chance to go for a proper tour around the municipality, but both of them have been fabulous. New Director Corporate Services and new Director for Engagement and Innovation.
Yeah, nothing like coming into a crisis and being able to jump straight into the deep end. Marty, I guess a question for you: what's the most important, or sorry, what's the most difficult issue that you've had to deal with to date? And secondly, do you see your organisation how do you see your organisation delivering services post the end of the lockout? Has it given you cause to sort of rethink some of your processes and ideas in the future?
Yeah, so certainly managing the expectations, I think, of community and politics, and the reality of being able to deliver on those expectations is something that I've found most difficult, and it's something as a team that we're grappling with. The fact that our continued service delivery across a range of activities and our capital program will rely on some external support is something that's playing heavily on my mind. And it's, as we approach our annual planned budget cycle, we need to build up a budget that essentially probably has a couple of scenarios. One is, if we get no support, what does that look like for the organisation, and what does it look like for our service delivery and capital program? If we get partial support from government, what is that like? So we're running scenarios, and that's consuming a lot of our thinking, what those scenarios look like for service delivery, for capital programs, but also more importantly for the organisation and the shape and form of the organisation. So we need to strike a budget technically by the 30th of June. We don't know whether or not we'll have that support confirmed or otherwise by that date. So there are the clocks are ticking on certain things, and so we need to start those conversations early so people are aware of the ramifications of support or otherwise.
John, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be really interesting looking forward how organisations handle return to a new normal and at what pace that occurs. And I think it's going to vary significantly by sector, depending on depending on what pressures and what impact that this has had, and what pace that they're able to recover their own organisation, their own industry from.
I wondered if Jackie and Marty, if this crisis had highlighted areas that perhaps you hadn't sort of thought was on your mandate, but you're thinking now about areas that you perhaps could get into or become involved in, or think about how you rework as a result of insights gained in this crisis. Anything that fits into that category?
I did a workshop. I did a Zoom meeting with all our community services staff, and so we have everything from libraries to performing arts, as I said, and a whole range of services. And I was amazed how creative they were with coming up with, ways to reinvigorate the business when we come back. They talked about the fact that people would be nervous about coming back into aquatic centres, and how do we open the centres with less numbers and allow people to spread out in the facilities? How do we run our swimming lessons with less people in them? How do we ensure that elderly people perhaps come at a time when there's not other people there and they can be separated so that they don't have a concern about contamination? So I was really impressed at our own people and their capacity to think creatively about how we can restart the business, but in a more staged way. So that was really positive for me.
And Marty, I guess just on that point, if we assume that the new normal is going to be different, any thoughts that or observations that you're making about ways that you're going to perhaps change in the future?
Yeah, I think, Andrew, firstly, I don't believe that council is the only organisation that has a role in both managing the lockdown but also the recovery. And I think we need to understand what our part is in that. And firstly and foremost, it's about ensuring those essential services continue to get delivered in a seamless fashion. Then as the various alert levels change, we play different component parts. And so, for example, on Tuesday, our building inspection team will be out there supporting the construction sector. They'll all be tooling up on Tuesday morning and on site, and they need to understand how they can work with that sector in a new way to ensure that construction continues to develop. The question about our public facilities, our libraries, our swimming pools is something, in my view, that's probably going to be a longer term proposition. And what we need to do is obviously have that conversation with the community about what that looks like when these things open, or how long they'll stay closed for a start. And so, yeah, it's very, very dynamic. And at the various alert levels, certainly our organisation will plug back in and support private sector, the economy, community and not-for-profit groups, basically to get back on their feet, and we'll work with them.
Yeah, to that point, I'd just add too, I think that psychosocial support for community is one of the things that is really important for local government to get in with, and ensure that we're there for our communities, because people are being socially isolated for an extended period of time. I think there's a lot of people with mental health issues that are really struggling out there at the moment, and it's how do we support them? The same as you were saying in regards to economic recovery, there's a lot of business people out there who are suffering from a psychosocial point of view as well, with all the issues that they're facing into.